Hello everybody, Juana here. First of all, if you're a regular on this channel, I hope you enjoyed my Month of Terror videos I made. The reception has been spectacular, with some videos doing better than others. If it's your first time here, let me clarify that this is mostly a miscellaneous channel created with the sole purpose of entertaining and nothing more. I don't like getting into drama, politics or discussions unless there's a bit of satire just to make people laugh, unless there is something unique I can add to the conversation. That's how I roll, and I prefer to stick to that format even if my videos perform poorly. However, even though I made a very cringy rant a while ago regarding the Oye Primos drama a while ago, for reasons that had nothing to do with what everyone was talking about back then, I would like to make an exception here. First and foremost, in case you didn't know, I am a Latino myself, a white Latino, which apparently seems to be Twitter's worst nightmare. But nonetheless, my family has been living in Latin America for generations, and I would like to add as well that we are not wealthy people either. I was born and raised in the slums, and we have tried to survive throughout hard and honest work our entire lives. Nothing has been given to us, and in fact, a lot has been taken from us over the years. But pity talk aside, I just wanted to clarify that we don't come from any place of privilege other than skin color, which still does jack shit to Latinos when you can face danger just for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. What I wanted to discuss today is a conversation that keeps flowing over social media a lot, and that is the use of the term LATINX, which has had a lot of opinions here and there. I'll start by being as transparent and real as possible. In my case, I do not mind it. Yeah, I said it, I do not mind it. I am an advocate of free speech, and that freedom indicates that if anyone wants to speak in a certain way, go ahead and do it. The same freedom is what allowed slangs and metaphors to be born, and when it comes to language, it is inevitable that language evolves over the years. The way we speak today is not the same as 100 years ago, and it's certainly not the same as 300 years ago. But there's the thing, language evolves. There's a key difference between language evolving, transforming, and imposed. To put it simply, I'll state a simple example right here. The word firefighter used to be fireman, and it evolved to become gender neutral. Nobody dislikes that. It makes sense. The word policeman became police officer, split into two words, but makes better sense to generalize. That idea is transformation. Now, when it comes to evolution of language, that's a different topic. That's the difference between Old English and Modern English. They even sound like two completely different languages, even though the later one is actually an evolution of the Old English. Finally, there's the final term, which is the imposition of language, which is where we step in, but before that, the counter-argument for that is that nobody is forcing anyone to speak in any way, which can be described as true to a certain level. You see, nobody ever holds a gun against anyone to say the word LATINX, or at least not that I know of. But that doesn't change the fact that there's gaslighting and social threats in the Latino community when it comes to using a specific kind of language. Fortunately, these are very minor and do not represent the majority of the population, but just like in the US, Latin America is full of crazy people who would lose their minds if things do not go exactly the way they want. And for that, you'll encounter a lot of people who will find ways to ostracize you, make you lose your job, and even legally threaten you for psychological damage, which is quite abrupt given the fact that there's actual dangerous people out there that the justice system should take care of. But enough politics here. I am here to say that even though I personally do not mind the use of LATINX, I understand people who actually do, and I do care in only one instance. So let me explain one by one. When I say I understand the people who hate the term LATINX, it's because I understand when your freedom of speech can be vulnerable simply because of technicalities, grammar that has not been globally accepted, or even forced upon by people who do not even speak the language to begin with. As you see, I am a Latin American who learned how to speak English thanks to movies, video games, and also 6 years of studying in a specialized institute thanks to the love, sacrifice, and care from my beloved parents. And the condition to successfully study this language was to learn the grammar, pronunciation, and speech patterns, among other things. That way, if I don't know how to say something properly, I can ask or even be assisted by a native speaker. And with that said, I would absolutely understand if after 6 years of studying this language, I refuse to speak it properly, someone gets mad. I will still speak my mother tongue nonetheless, but I will do the extra effort to speak it correctly for the sole purpose of people understanding me. But that leads me to the one instance in which I do care about the imposition of such terms, which is when companies try to act in a friendly manner to its customers. Recent example is the Spider-Man 2 game for PS5, in which the Spanish localization used gender-neutral speech. Let me clarify you two things regarding this. Spanish is not a perfect language, that's for certain. You see this is a pillow, and it's called almohada in Spanish. It's female. This is a microphone, which translates to micrófono in Spanish, and it's male. For what reason? Nobody knows. It's one of the few defects that we don't understand to this day from our language, but there's also other words that nobody speaks about. For example, presidente, which, you guessed it, it means president. And that's a literally neutral word because it ends with ente, meaning entity. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because the word presidente was forcefully transformed to presidenta in the latest years when referred to a female entity occupying the role, but there is no presidento. You see what I mean? For all the defects our language has, there's also places where there weren't any and yet they somehow managed to find errors in this discourse. But that's not why I draw the line. Recently, a very famous Spanish YouTuber called Rubius streamed the game and muted the voice acting the moment the inclusive language came up. Now, this is not to attack the LGBT community at all because I am aware that this is supposed to be a gender-neutral term for people who have a specific gender, but my concern is that this was done by the same company who censored the pride flags for consumers in Middle East. And no, this is not a rumor, it was taken down from the PS Store for containing content related to the LGBT movement. At least in this regard, I applaud The Last of Us 2 and Final Fantasy XVI who chose not to remove the content and chose to keep the content intact. Now, I'll make a bold move and assume here for a second, and before criticizing me, please mind that this statement does not have ill intentions behind. Isn't the LGBT movement supposed to be fighting homophobia, bigotry, and oppression? Isn't it supposed to send a message of fight for everyone who can like whoever they like without the fear of being oppressed? Then, if you remove it, what's the use? Because I'll say right here, it's really easy to fight when you have nothing to lose, but to take a risk in these difficult situations is where you make a difference. And you expect me to believe that a company completely driven purely by money actually supports the LGBT community in Latin America? Like, why do we keep capitalizing people's sexuality in a political movement? But anyway, I'm digressing again, and so I like to close my statement with this. If you really want to be inclusive in any part of the world, there is a universal language that surpasses any language, political and social barrier all over the globe, which is called don't be a dick. Yeah, it wasn't that hard, right? To all the non-Latino viewers, if you have any doubts regarding this issue and can't make up your mind, this is the only statement in which I can speak on behalf of all the Latino community. If you're not a dick, that's it. You've done it. You showed respect. That's the best way to make everyone feel included. Just don't be a dick. Also, this is not related to the topic at hand, but I still wanted to mention it. Learning our language is not cultural appropriation. It's cultural appreciation. We love it. And if you even learn local slangs, people will love you. That's about it. That's my take on this topic. If you want to support my channel, you can check the other kinds of videos I make, which I promise are entertaining. Anyway, thank you and have a lovely day.